Your feet wake you at 3 in the morning with a pain so sharp you gasp out loud. The calf muscle locks like a fist of stone and you're scrambling in the dark trying to stretch it, rubbing the knot, waiting for the agony to ease. You tell yourself it's just age, just part of the deal after 60, but here's what they don't tell you. Those nighttime leg cramps that hijack your sleep aren't inevitable, and they're not harmless background noise. They're often a signal that circulation in your lower legs has slowed to a crawl, that mineral balance has drifted out of range, or that the small nerves firing into your muscles are misfiring because nobody taught you one simple thing: how to wake up the reflex arcs in your feet before you go to bed. In Japan, people over 60 have known for generations that 5 minutes of targeted foot pressure before sleep can cut cramping episodes by more than half within 2 weeks. Not stretching, not supplements, not another pill. Just deliberate pressure applied to specific zones on the sole that reset the nerve signals running up into your calves and thighs. It sounds almost too easy, and that's exactly why it gets ignored in Western medicine, where the reflex is to prescribe magnesium or quinine, or tell you to drink more water and hope for the best. But the science behind this practice is rock solid. Pressure on the plantar surface stimulates mechanoreceptors that feed directly into the spinal reflex controlling muscle tone. And when you do it in a particular sequence, you're essentially rebooting the system that tells your calf to relax instead of clench. I'm going to walk you through the exact technique tonight, step by step, so you can try it before bed and see what happens. But first, we need to understand why cramps hit you harder after 60, what the real triggers are, and why the usual advice misses the mark. Then I'll show you the Japanese method, the pressure points, the timing, the progressions if you want to go deeper, and the handful of other evening habits that make the foot press twice as effective. Stick with me because the second thing I'm going to reveal is a nighttime hydration mistake that actually makes cramps worse, and the #1 game changer, the one that stops cramps in their tracks for most people, is so simple you'll wonder why no doctor ever mentioned it. Before we go further, drop a comment right now and tell me your age and where you're watching from. I want to see how many of us are dealing with this and where in the world you are. Just your age, your city, or country, that's it. Let's start with what's really going on when a cramp strikes. After 60, your circulation isn't what it was. The small arteries feeding your calves carry less blood per heartbeat. The veins that return blood to your heart have to work against gravity, and often the valves inside those veins start to wear out, so blood pools in your lower legs during the day. By night, when you lie flat, that pooled fluid shifts and the sudden change in pressure can trigger a cramp. At the same time, your kidneys don't hold on to minerals the way they used to. Magnesium, potassium, calcium, all of them leak out faster in urine, and when the balance tips even slightly, the nerve endings in your muscles become hyperexcitable. They fire off contraction signals at the smallest provocation: a cold bedroom, a weird sleeping position, a tiny dehydration nudge. Boom, cramp. Here's the kicker. The standard advice is to stretch before bed or take a magnesium supplement. And yes, those can help a little, but they don't address the core issue. The mechanoreceptors in the soles of your feet are the frontline sensors for your entire lower leg reflex system. When you press into specific zones on the plantar fascia, you send inhibitory signals up the posterior tibial nerve and into the spinal cord segments that control your gastrocnemius and soleus, the big calf muscles that cramp. You're literally telling the nervous system to dial down the hair trigger. In some hospital-based studies in Japan, older adults who performed structured foot pressure for 5 minutes each evening reported a 60% drop in cramp frequency within 14 days, and most of them had been cramping 3 or 4 nights a week for years. Let me tell you about Margaret, 72, a retired postal worker from Ohio. She'd wake up almost every other night with her right calf locked, sometimes both legs. She'd hobble to the bathroom, lean against the wall, try to stretch, and by the time the cramp released, she was wide awake and her sleep was destroyed. Her doctor suggested magnesium and told her to stay hydrated. She did both for 6 weeks and saw maybe a 10% improvement. Then she came across the Japanese foot press technique in a video and decided to try it before bed. She sat on the edge of her mattress, used her thumbs to press into 3 specific zones on each sole for about 90 seconds per zone, and finished with a light rolling motion across the arch. First night, no cramp. She thought it was luck. Second night, no cramp. By the end of 2 weeks, she'd only had 1 mild episode and it resolved in seconds. She's been doing the routine every evening for 4 months now, and she's had maybe 2 cramps total in that entire time. That's the kind of result that makes you ask why this isn't standard advice. So, what is this technique exactly? It's a sequence of sustained pressure points and gentle mobilization moves applied to the bottom of each foot. You don't need special tools, though a tennis ball or a small rubber ball can help if your thumbs get tired. The principle is simple. You're going to press into 3 key zones, hold for about 30 seconds with firm but not painful pressure, release, and repeat. Then you'll do a rolling release across the arch and finish with a light percussive tap along the heel. The whole thing takes about 5 minutes for both feet. You do it sitting on the edge of your bed or in a chair, ideally right before you lie down for the night, and the effects build over time. The first few nights you're teaching the nervous system a new pattern. After a week or 2, the pattern holds and cramps become rare. Zone 1 is the center of the heel pad, just forward of the very back edge. Place your thumb there and press straight down into the bone. You should feel a firm, slightly tender sensation but not sharp pain. Hold for 30 seconds, breathing slowly. This point influences the calcaneal branch of the tibial nerve and helps reset tone in the deep calf muscles. Zone 2 is the midfoot, about an inch forward of the heel pad and slightly toward the inside arch. Press here, and you're targeting the area where the plantar fascia anchors and where a bundle of small nerves converge. Again, 30 seconds, firm pressure, breathe. Zone 3 is the ball of the foot, right beneath the base of the second and third toes. This is the zone that connects upward through the flexor tendons and has direct reflex links to the gastrocnemius. 30 seconds here can feel surprisingly intense because the tissue is thinner, so adjust pressure as needed. After you've done all 3 zones on one foot, take a tennis ball or use the heel of your opposite foot and roll it slowly across the arch from heel to ball, applying moderate downward pressure. Do this for about 20 seconds. You're spreading out the fascia and encouraging blood flow. Finally, use your fingertips to lightly tap along the sides of the heel and the Achilles tendon area, almost like a gentle drumming. This percussive input further calms the nerve branches and signals to the muscle that it's time to release residual tension. Then switch to the other foot and repeat the entire sequence. When you're done, lie down and go to sleep. Most people notice the difference within the first few nights. Now here's the nighttime hydration mistake that actually makes cramps worse. You've probably heard that dehydration causes cramps, so you drink a big glass of water right before bed thinking you're doing the right thing. The problem is that a sudden large volume of plain water dilutes your blood sodium and other electrolytes in the short term, and that dip in concentration can paradoxically trigger a cramp. What works better is sipping a small amount of water with a pinch of sea salt, or a squeeze of lemon about an hour before bed, so your body has time to absorb it and stabilize the mineral balance. If you wake up thirsty in the night, keep a small bottle of electrolyte water by your bed, the kind with sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and take just a few sips. That way, you're replacing minerals, not just diluting them. Another hidden trigger is cold. When your feet get cold in bed, the blood vessels constrict and circulation drops even further, setting the stage for a cramp. Some people sleep in socks and that helps, but an even better trick is to warm your feet with a hot water bottle or heating pad for 10 minutes while you do your foot press routine. The combination of heat and pressure amplifies the effect. The warmth dilates the vessels, the pressure resets the nerves, and together they create a window of relaxation that carries you through the night. Just make sure the heat source isn't too hot and don't fall asleep with it on your feet unless it has an auto shutoff. Let me tell you about Tom, 68, a former construction foreman from Texas. He used to get cramps in both calves almost every night. Sometimes twice a night. He'd tried everything: magnesium, potassium, stretching, foam rolling. Nothing worked consistently. Then he learned the Japanese foot press and added the warm water bottle step. He'd sit on his bed, place the bottle under one foot, press into the zones, then switch. 5 minutes total. Within a week, his cramps dropped to maybe once every 3 nights, and by 3 weeks he was going 5 or 6 nights in a row with no cramps at all. He told me the key was consistency. If he skipped a night, the cramps would creep back. If he did the routine every evening, he slept through the night. Simple cause and effect. Now let's talk about what you eat in the evening, because this matters more than you think. A heavy meal late at night, especially one loaded with refined carbs and low in vegetables, can spike your blood sugar and then crash it a few hours later. That metabolic roller coaster affects electrolyte balance and increases the chance of a cramp. On the flip side, a light dinner with leafy greens, a palm-sized portion of fish or chicken, and a small serving of a mineral-rich starch like sweet potato or quinoa gives your body steady fuel and a good dose of magnesium and potassium. If you want to go one step further, add a small handful of pumpkin seeds or almonds as an evening snack. Both are packed with magnesium, and the fat helps you absorb it. Here's a progression you can try if you want to deepen the practice. After you've done the basic 3-zone press for a couple of weeks and you're seeing results, you can add a simple self-massage along the calf. Sit with one leg bent and your foot flat on the floor. Use both hands to squeeze and knead the calf muscle from just above the ankle up to the back of the knee. Spend about 60 seconds per leg. This manual work pushes stagnant blood out of the muscle and encourages fresh blood to flow in. Combine it with the foot press, and you've built a 10-minute evening routine that not only prevents cramps but also improves overall leg circulation and can ease that heavy, achy feeling some people get after a long day. Another thing to watch is your sleeping position. If you sleep on your back with your toes pointed down, you're shortening the calf muscle all night, and that can trigger a cramp. Try placing a pillow under your knees so your legs are slightly bent, or use a wedge pillow at the foot of the bed to keep your feet flexed at a neutral angle. If you sleep on your side, tuck a small pillow between your knees to keep your hips and legs aligned and reduce tension in the lower leg muscles. These are tiny adjustments, but they can make a big difference when combined with the foot press. Now let's address the role of medication. If you're taking a diuretic for blood pressure or heart issues, it's pulling water and electrolytes out of your body, and that's a common cramp trigger. Don't stop your medication, but do talk to your doctor about whether the dose or timing could be adjusted, and ask if adding a potassium-sparing diuretic or a magnesium supplement makes sense. Some blood pressure meds and statins are also linked to increased cramp risk. Again, don't make changes on your own, but it's worth a conversation. The goal is to get the therapeutic benefit without the side effect of nightly cramps. Here's a quick test you can do right now to gauge your current nerve and muscle function. Stand up, hold on to a counter or chair for balance, and try to balance on one foot for 10 seconds. If you can't make it to 10, or if your calf starts to twitch or tighten, that's a sign that the reflex control in that leg is shaky. The foot press routine will help retrain those reflexes over time, and as your balance improves, your cramp risk drops. It's all connected. Better proprioception, better nerve signaling, fewer cramps. Let's go back to the science for a moment, because understanding the mechanism makes the practice stick. The soles of your feet are packed with Mechanoreceptors, specialized nerve endings that detect pressure, vibration, and stretch. When you press into the 3 zones I described, you're activating these receptors, and they send signals up through the tibial nerve to the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, those signals interact with motor neurons that control muscle contraction. The effect is inhibitory, meaning the signals tell the motor neurons to calm down and stop firing at a high rate. This is called reciprocal inhibition, and it's the same principle behind why pressing on a muscle belly can relieve a cramp in the moment. The difference here is that you're doing it preventively and targeting the reflex arc before it goes haywire. In traditional Japanese practice, this technique is often paired with a light foot soak in warm water with Epsom salt. The magnesium in the Epsom salt can absorb through the skin to some degree, though the evidence is mixed and the warmth itself is beneficial. If you want to try it, fill a basin with warm water, add a 1/4 cup of Epsom salt, and soak your feet for 10 minutes before you do the press routine. Then dry your feet, do the presses, and go to bed. Some people swear by this combination and say it's even more effective than the press alone. Another angle to consider is daytime activity. If you sit for long hours with your feet flat on the floor or dangling, blood pools in your lower legs and that sets you up for nighttime cramps. Make it a habit to stand and walk for a couple of minutes every hour, and when you're sitting, flex and point your toes 10 times every so often. This pumps blood back up toward your heart and keeps the circulation loop moving. Compression socks can also help during the day, especially if you have varicose veins or a history of swelling. They support the veins and reduce pooling, and many people find that wearing them during the day means fewer cramps at night. Let me tell you about Linda, 70, a retired teacher from Florida. She had cramps almost every night for 2 years. She tried magnesium, quinine, stretching. Nothing gave her more than marginal relief. Then she started wearing compression socks during the day, doing the Japanese foot press every evening, and adding a 10-minute calf massage twice a week. Within 3 weeks, her cramps went from nightly to maybe once a week, and they were much milder when they did happen. She said the foot press was the anchor of the routine and the other pieces made it even better. That's the pattern I see over and over. The foot press is the core intervention, and the other habits amplify it. Now, let's talk about breathing. This might sound unrelated, but hear me out. Shallow, rapid breathing, especially if you're stressed or anxious before bed, shifts your body into a sympathetic nervous system state, which increases muscle tone and makes cramps more likely. Slow, deep breathing, the kind where you breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale through your mouth for 6, activates the parasympathetic system and tells your muscles to relax. Spend 2 or 3 minutes doing this breathing pattern right after you finish your foot press. It's like putting a bow on the whole routine and signaling to your body that it's time to power down. Here's a progression for people who want to go deeper. Once you've mastered the basic 3-zone press and you're not getting cramps anymore, you can add a technique called toe spreading. Sit with your foot resting on the opposite thigh. Use your fingers to gently spread your toes apart, holding each spread for about 10 seconds. This mobilizes the small joints in the forefoot and stimulates more mechanoreceptors, further refining the nerve signals going up the chain. It takes an extra 2 minutes per foot, but it's worth it if you also deal with issues like hammer toes or bunions, because it addresses the whole foot structure. Another tool you can use is a Spiky massage ball, the kind with rubber nubs all over it. Roll it under your foot with moderate pressure for about 60 seconds before you do the 3-zone press. The texture of the ball creates more intense receptor activation, and some people find it gives them faster results. You can find these balls online or at any sporting goods store for less than $10. It's a small investment that can make a noticeable difference. Let's address the question of timing. Is there a best time of day to do the foot press? The answer is evening, within an hour of bedtime, is ideal, because that's when you want to reset the reflex arc and carry that calm state into sleep. But if you're someone who gets cramps during the day, maybe after a long walk or during a nap, you can also do a quick version of the press anytime you feel tightness starting. Just press into the 3 zones for 15 seconds each and roll the arch. It's like a circuit breaker that stops the cramp before it fully locks up. Now, here's the #1 game changer, the thing that stops cramps in their tracks for most people, and it's so simple it almost sounds silly. Make sure your bedding isn't too tight. Heavy blankets or sheets tucked in tightly at the foot of the bed force your feet into a pointed position all night, and that sustained shortening of the calf muscle is a major cramp trigger. Loosen the sheets or use a blanket that drapes loosely over your feet. Some people use a bed cradle, a little frame that lifts the blanket off your feet so they can rest at a neutral angle. This one change, combined with the foot press, can eliminate cramps entirely for many people. It's that powerful. Let me tell you about Robert, 74, a retired firefighter from Illinois. He'd been dealing with cramps for 3 years. He tried every supplement, every stretch, nothing worked. Then someone told him to check his bedding. He realized he was sleeping under a heavy comforter tucked in tight, and his feet were pointed all night. He loosened the bedding and started doing the foot press every evening. Within 1 week, he went from cramps every single night to 0 cramps. He couldn't believe something so obvious had been the missing piece. He's been cramp-free for 6 months now, and he says the foot press keeps it that way. Let's talk about what to do if a cramp does break through despite your best efforts. First, don't panic. Sit up, flex your foot by pulling your toes toward your shin, and hold that position for 30 to 60 seconds. At the same time, press firmly into the center of the cramping muscle with your thumb or knuckles. The combination of stretch and pressure usually releases the cramp within a minute. Once it's gone, get up and walk around for a couple of minutes to flush the muscle and restore normal circulation. Then, before you get back into bed, do a quick version of the foot press on that leg, focusing on Zone 2 and Zone 3. This resets the reflex and reduces the chance of a second cramp. Another preventive strategy is to keep your bedroom temperature comfortable, not too cold. A cold room makes your muscles contract to generate heat, and that increases cramp risk. Aim for a temperature between 65 and 70 degrees. And if your feet still get cold, wear light socks or use a hot water bottle for the first part of the night. The goal is to maintain steady warmth without overheating, which can disrupt sleep in other ways. Here's a habit stacking tip. If you already have an evening routine, like brushing your teeth or doing a bit of reading before bed, slot the foot press right into that sequence. Maybe you do it while you're sitting in bed reading, or right after you brush your teeth while you're sitting on the edge of the tub. When you link the new habit to an existing one, it's easier to remember and it becomes automatic faster. Consistency is everything with this technique. The more nights you do it, the better the results. Now, let's address a common question. What if you have neuropathy or diabetes and your feet are numb? Can you still do the foot press? Yes, but you need to be more careful about pressure. Use lighter pressure and watch for any signs of skin irritation or bruising. If you can't feel much, have someone else check your feet after you do the routine to make sure you didn't press too hard. The nerve signaling still happens even if sensation is reduced, so the technique can still help, but safety comes first. If you have any open wounds or ulcers on your feet, skip the press on that foot until it's healed. Let's bring in one more story. Meet Susan, 67, a retired nurse from Colorado. She developed cramps after starting a new blood pressure medication. Her doctor said it was a known side effect and suggested magnesium. She tried it, no change. She was waking up 2 or 3 times a night in pain, and her sleep was a disaster. Then she found the Japanese foot press technique online and decided to give it a shot. She did the routine every night for 2 weeks and also started wearing compression socks during the day. Her cramps dropped from multiple times a night to maybe once every few nights, and they were much less severe. She brought it up with her doctor, who was surprised but supportive, and they ended up adjusting her medication dose slightly. Between the lower dose and the foot press routine, Susan is now sleeping through the night most nights and she feels like a different person. Here's a final tip for people who want to track their progress. Keep a simple cramp diary for 2 weeks. Each morning, jot down whether you had a cramp, how many, how severe, and what time. Also, note whether you did the foot press the night before and any other factors like what you ate, how much water you drank, bedroom temperature, and so on. After 2 weeks, look for patterns. You'll probably see that the nights you did the foot press correlate strongly with fewer or no cramps, and you might spot other triggers you hadn't noticed before. This kind of data makes it easier to fine-tune your routine and gives you concrete evidence that the technique is working. So let's recap the whole system. Every evening, within an hour of bedtime, sit on the edge of your bed or in a chair. Press into the 3 zones on each foot, center of the heel, midfoot arch, and ball of the foot, holding each for 30 seconds with firm but comfortable pressure. Roll a tennis ball or your opposite heel across the arch for 20 seconds, then lightly tap the sides of the heel. Do both feet. The whole thing takes 5 minutes. Combine this with a light evening meal rich in greens and magnesium. Sip water with a pinch of salt an hour before bed. Keep your bedroom comfortably warm. Loosen your bedding. And wear compression socks during the day if you have circulation issues. Do slow breathing for 2 minutes after the foot press to activate your relaxation response. If you want to go further, add a calf massage or a warm foot soak with Epsom salt. Track your results for 2 weeks and adjust as needed. This isn't about taking another pill or doing some complicated medical procedure. It's about understanding how your nervous system works and giving it the input it needs to stop misfiring. The Japanese have been using this approach for generations because it works and because it respects the body's natural reflex pathways. You're not fighting your body, you're working with it. And the beauty of this technique is that it's cumulative. The more consistently you do it, the more stable your reflex control becomes, and the less likely you are to get cramps at all. Aging doesn't have to mean accepting pain and broken sleep as the new normal. It means learning what your body needs and meeting it there. The foot press is one of those rare interventions that's simple, free, safe, and remarkably effective if you stick with it. Give it 2 weeks. Do the routine every night before bed, make the other adjustments I mentioned, and see what happens. Most people notice a significant drop in cramp frequency within the first week, and by 2 weeks the difference is obvious. If you're still getting cramps after 2 weeks of consistent practice, then it's time to look deeper. Maybe there's a medication issue. Maybe you need a more thorough electrolyte panel. Maybe there's an underlying circulation problem that needs medical attention. But for the majority of people over 60, this technique alone or combined with the supporting habits will solve the problem. Here's my final question for you. Which part of this routine are you going to try first tonight, and why? Drop a comment and let me know. Are you going straight for the 3-zone foot press, or are you starting with the bedding check? Or maybe you're going to add the warm foot soak. I want to hear what resonates with you and what you're curious about. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that first step. So share it below, and let's build a community of people who are sleeping through the night again, 1 foot press at a time.